Welcome back to the Top 500 Guide series. Today's video is going to be on Sojourn. So in the last video, we did talk quite a bit about Tracer, the micro, and the macro. Same thing for Sojourn here. We're going to be talking about micro, macro, and sort of just general tips I want to give for Sojourn, right? Now, this video is specifically made for Sojourn, and we're not really going to be talking about sort of the micro on Cass and Ash, even though this is sort of like the hit scan guide. In the future, I might continue it and do sort of a Cass or Ash guide specifically, but just expect per character videos. But a lot of the concepts in the videos, such as the micro and the macro, will also apply to other hit scans as well, right? Because you're pretty much fulfilling the same sort of role, you're still sort of doing the same thing, there's just some nuances that you need to understand. But you know, I'm really trying to make these videos better quality, so if you have any comments about how I can sort of improve it and whatnot, please let me know down below. And you know, as always, I hope you enjoy the video, and let's just get into it. Alright, so now in this part of the video, we're going to be talking about the perks, right? Now, a lot of the footage for the rest of this video is going to be in Season 17, and I know this is a Season 18 guide, but the gameplay loop is pretty much the same. You are still playing a hitscan, you just have a little bit less HP, but you know what? Let me just talk about the perks really quickly. So, Overcharge and Deceleration Field. Honestly, both really strong perks. Now, in the previous season, it was kind of, you always pick Overcharged, but Deceleration Field is really good, especially when you're playing sort of like hybrid maps or pretty much any map where you can sort of, you know, you expect enemies to sort of push, and if you're playing in sort of like a neutral fight, which we'll sort of talk about later in that Nepal game, you'll see my disruptor shot, right, in that game. And Deceleration Field sort of gets more value out of sort of those like poke fights and those like neutral fights. Overcharge, on the other hand, is sort of just for ult fights and when things are sort of like squishy. Deceleration Field makes it so your neutrals are a lot stronger, so when you're just generally like fighting each other and no one's using ults, it makes that sort of exchange better with Deceleration Field because that could lead to like an opening pick. Overcharge, on the other hand, it just makes your ult fight better. Personally, I choose Deceleration Field now. It is pretty good, honestly. Dual thrusters or friction? Dual thrusters I think is all the way. I think friction is honestly not really that great because look how fast you charge rail. Right? If I get friction, like you can see that it doesn't even, you have to slide all the way to do it. A lot of the times you want to cancel your slide, so this is just like bad. This is just bad, and I fell off the map. Okay, the point is that you just don't want to get it. Get the other perk. Get dual thrusters. It's pretty much, I think, always going to be better for the most part. But again, take it with a grain of salt. It is up to you. Let's move on. So let's briefly go over why binds sort of matter, right? When you're playing Overwatch, you want to sort of feel comfortable, and when you're playing Sojourn specifically, you want your railgun shots to be as accurate as possible because that's your main sort of kill threat you have against enemy DPSs, supports, and sort of everything, right? You do a lot of damage with your primary fire, but what you really want to be precise is your railgun shots. So if you look at the default binds, the primary fire is on mouse 1, and I just think it just doesn't make sense, right? Why would I have my primary fire on mouse 1 when I'm just holding down mouse 1 like this? Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. It's not really that accurate, right? You're not really having that sort of hit scan feeling. It's a projectile. So if we look at Cass on the other hand, right? Boom, 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 right? We sort of have that mind-body connection sort of like built in, like innately, because we're always just using mouse 1 for our precision sort of like input, right? But for Sojourn, you know, we don't by default. That's why you want to go into your binds and you kind of want to just like swap that. It's like a really small thing, but it could sort of lead to a really big difference when it comes to, you know, comfortability when you're like aiming. And I think it'll just feel better in general if you do that. So yeah, that is something to sort of consider when thinking about binds. Okay, so let's talk about the primary fire. The primary fire, really simple, right? What we do is we want to charge up our railgun, and then we want to shoot our rail. Very simple, right? Now, what you want to be doing is you want to be charging your rail to like around like 50 plus, sort of to, you want to get kind of to 100. You build rail really fast, so you don't need to be like willy-nilly with it and, you know, just like randomly just fire off like when you're like 50. Firing shots when you're like 50 rail is like fine, but I would suggest trying to keep it for a little bit longer and being a little bit more patient with it, because all of the times in a ranked game, you know, you will be able to build railgun fast off of a tank, but the thing is that if you wait for a decent opportunity to use that railgun shot, you could potentially get massive value. Now, this is sort of, you know, I don't want this to be like a thing where you think you have to save rail, but this is something you should just like sort of think about when you're playing Sojourn, is that if you do hold rail for a little bit longer when you're at max rail, it does generate pressure on the enemy DPSs or whoever you're sort of looking at, because it's a full rail Sojourn. It is still pretty scary. No one really wants to peek that. But it's not only that, you know, you also have just a charged shot that could just potentially, you know, one-tap someone depending on how low their HP is. So in this clip here, it's just a like actual example of this. So I'm trying to angle this Sojourn, or this, yeah, the Sojourn. I can't really get a good shot on him, but I see the Sombra, and then I use my full railgun shot on her. So it's something like really simple you can do, and I think that'll sort of help your Sojourn gameplay a little bit. The next thing we'll talk about is Disruptor Shot. So Disruptor Shot is really important to understand because it is a zoning ability. Now, I will show examples of this in a second, but essentially it's good at making it so, like, if there's a Genji sort of, oh shoot, diving you, then you can sort of fight inside of your Disruptor Shot, so it's a little bit harder, and then you can sort of kill him, right? It's also good at, you know, throwing at supports if they're trying to heal their tank. It makes them so that they have to move, so they don't play inside of it. It's really, really useful. So here's a prime example of using Disruptor Shot in-game. I'm using the Disruptor Shot to sort of zone their hit scan from doing damage. Yes, both supports are by this enemy Sojourn, and my Genji is sort of contesting that Solj, so she doesn't really, you know, shoot my tank. But you can see how difficult I'm sort of making it for that Solj to play, right? The Disruptor Shot behind the enemy Solj, and the Genji is also in front of the enemy Soldier's face, and she just dies here. She can't really do anything. It's just really hard for her to play, and she just needs to leave or explode. Now, the last thing is OC. OC, pretty simple, right? You just get like infinite railguns for as long as it lasts. But here's like one small little mechanical thing, or one small micro thing that you can do that'll help your OCs, and it'll be like a slightly better. So you might already know this tip, but it's actually really small, and I think it'll help. Because OCing and hitscan in general is relatively simple. You just shoot stuff. You shoot tank, and then you shoot somebody, right? But for OCing, all you can do to sort of add a little bit extra value, and to make it a little bit easier to sort of get value out of OC, is to just charge your railgun to full, and let's say I want to hit this Alari, shoot the Alari, and then immediately OC after, because then you get full railgun, you get pretty much like huge uptime on the OC. OC doesn't really last for too long, and you want to be getting the max value you can. So remember, railgun has no cooldown. So charge your rail to 100 if you can, and then you instantly OC someone after. So this will sort of surprise players, like a Lucio, right? If there's a Lucio and he has beat, what you can do is just build 100 charge and then immediately ult him right after, and then he like won't be able to beat because you kill him so fast. So that's sort of the last thing I have for the micro part. Alright, so welcome to the macro section of the video, and we're going to be talking about the main goals of tank, or not tank, sorry, Sojourn. So the first goal is to pretty much just shoot the tank. Apply pressure to the tank, especially like a Junker Queen, for instance. Really squishy. You can just perma shoot her and she has to like sort of back up. That's sort of the first thing, is we want to be shooting tank, applying pressure to tank. But the other thing is we also want to be taking angles, and you know, we want to use those angles to pressure backline as well. So throughout sort of this macro section, we're going to be talking about positioning and where to positions to sort of get angles, and sort of understanding angles and why it actually matters in the bigger picture. So starting off here, I'm shooting the Queen, and I'm like, okay, what should I do? So what I decide to do is I decide to just swing wide, and I'm gonna slide all the way over here. And you can see their cast is playing all the way back over here, but I want to play here, and there's two reasons why, right? Now, I'm playing here because this Queen would hide in this corner and LOS damage perma. Oh, the hair looks funny. She will never take damage if I'm playing here, because I have to always walk out to angle this queen, but if the cast walks out, the cast will punish me as I'm just slowly walking out to angle the queen. So what my idea is that I'm going to play wide here and just spam them as they're sort of just like playing here, because there's no cover essentially. This corner is the only cover the queen has. So what they do instead is they decide to just walk forward. Unfortunately, what happens here is our ram does go for the queen, but you know, we could have actually just, our ram could have just walked forward and could have just killed their backline right here, which is like unfortunate because like literally no one's in this room. Our supports are like right here. But that's sort of the idea, because you can see, what is the cast looking at right now, right? Let's go to the enemy cast's POV. Enemy cast is looking at me. Is the enemy cast looking at my tank? No, the enemy cast is looking at me, because I'm the one applying pressure to the cast, and it just feels super like sketchy when you're just walking like this, because you're taking fire for free. All the high elo players are like, I don't really like this. I'm getting spammed for free. This is like really bad. Like, let me get out of this angle. And it feels really awkward to just play in the spot. We're getting sort of just free spammed from range, and there's nothing you can really do. So he's just like sitting there, like taking damage. He doesn't really die, but the thing is that you're sort of there, sort of like applying that sort of like pressure. He is like taking infinite damage though, our tank, which kind of sucks, because he didn't really go for the cast or their backline at all. But it's fine. The main idea is here. The idea is that we are trying to play and we're trying to take angles, and that's something you want to be doing, is taking good angles and applying pressure to backline, DPSs, or tank, you know? Okay, so second goal, right? Our second goal is to put pressure on the tank. Now, why do we want to put pressure on the enemy tank? We put enemy pressure on the tank, or we put pressure on the enemy tank because we want to make it so he cannot walk forward and just ape our team for free. Here, we're looking to just shoot tank, and occasionally we're going to be using our railgun to sort of hit backlines. So here, I see the BAP peeking out here. I have full rail. Shoot the BAP. Remember, so much value. Your railgun shot goes through enemies, right? So here, I hit the ram and the BAP at the same time. This forces a lamp. He puts lamp just to live. And just like that, I'm just generating so much value, so much pressure. And our team is walking in, our team is walking in. Now, we see that, look how much space our team has, right? Look where I am. I'm in such an aggressive spot. My BAP is in an aggressive spot, and, you know, my Juno's here. It's fine. But look where our tank is. Our tank is so far up, right? So am I going to shoot their tank anymore? No. Let's shift our focus to shooting the enemy Solj. We want to use our railgun shot on the Solj. Remember, they don't have lamp anymore, and you can't really lamp a headshot because headshots are just instant, right? So here, we try to get that headshot. We try to land that headshot. Unfortunately, we just suck and we miss, which is fine. So next thing we do is we go back to doing the same thing. Shoot the tank. Shoot the tank. And then we want to be looking for backline again. So, but here, this is where this, you know, this disruptor shot becomes really huge, because the disruptor shot is aimed at the backline, and you can see in slow motion here, when we go 0. Wait, where is it? I don't know why it looks like that, but the point is that the disruptor shot is in a really, really good spot, right? So again, we're doing our own thing. We're living, we're LOSing damage. That's something to really sort of, you know, get in your head when you're playing hitscan. LOS damage, don't ego peek everything. It is a very easy thing to do. Always LOS damage, don't randomly just ego peek stuff. But here, you know, we're just pressuring the tank perma, and that's how we got that space earlier, right? But this is sort of adding on to that. Because of those things we did earlier, we're getting railgun charge from the tank, we're shooting their backline, forcing that lamp, which means here, now that I throw through this disruptor shot here, you can see that it's generating so much value. My Genji is fighting their soldier, and their soldier has to sort of play out of it. But it's like so difficult to sort of play, you know, the soldier has to actually play here and just shoot the Genji, because she can't move forward because there's a disruptor shot. There is no lamp anymore, right? We burned the enemy BAP's lamp earlier. This guy does not have lamp. So this Sojourn here is very, very killable. So when we go to my Genji, right, we can see this Genji, my Genji doesn't even kill this guy. It's me. I kill this enemy Sojourn, and it's just by something as simple as doing that. But what am I actually doing, right? What am I actually doing right now? I'm doing what I said earlier. I'm just literally just shooting the tank perma. So here I'm shooting the tank, and now that I see that we get a kill, what I instinctively do is like, okay, shooting the tank is not a prio anymore. He's not going to die. I'm going to try, now that there's no hitscan, instead of just shooting their tank perma, I'm going to try to help support my Genji a little bit more, right? Because I helped him get that Sojourn kill, and I want to extend his lead on their backline. So I'm going to give him a little bit more of a head start instead of him just playing 1v2 in the backline. So I'm going to go and look for a railgun shot on their Lucio instead of shooting it on the Ram, right? We want to build railgun charge from their tank and shoot their squishies. So here, the Lucio is really, really low. The Lucio is super, super low. So this gives my Genji an opportunity for like a follow-up, right? He could follow up, he goes for this kill, and he gets it. So right like that, really, really simple stuff here. Shooting the tank is boring, but you want to be trying to land those. You want to try to land those shots on the backline or whoever you can, and this is just sort of the perfect example of just that. So here, all we do next is we just shoot the tank and cap point, and yeah. Now this is going to sort of illustrate the idea about angling and why it actually makes the game easier for you. So we're going to talk about this angle and why it's so simple, or yet so important. So this is kind of normal for Nepal, right? When you're playing Village on Nepal, you are just spamming each other out when you meet at the start. But you kind of need to understand why, this is good and sort of the benefits, right? And yeah, you might know why, but I'm just going to talk about it anyway. Right? So what does this angle do, right, compared to this angle? So when I'm playing on this angle, it means I am able to shoot them when they're all the way over here. When they're playing here, right, I'm able to do damage, I'm able to send disruptor shot, I'm able to just poke them while they're just here. So if you look at the way the angle works, if I'm deciding to play where our supports are, then my angle is now this. So what does that mean? My damage can only be done right here to where the queen is. So it means someone can actually just play here and just sort of, be here. But since I'm playing here, I'm making it so the enemy DPSs are going to get spammed out if they try to just perma shoot the Ram. Yeah, they can play like back here and stuff, but they can't swing out anymore to shoot my backline. So because I'm playing this angle, they can't really shoot my backline at all. Because the moment they try to angle my backline, they have to move here. And by the time they're moving here, my Ram is right there, so they'll never ever do that. But I'm also here providing so much value, just spamming them down anytime they sort of want to walk. Like anytime they want to like walk in, they want to do anything, they're just getting spammed and shot. And it's at no mechanical cost, right? I'm literally just like playing back here and I can just like shoot them for free. There's no mechanical cost for me just like shooting like down a straight line here. I think there's a tracer like almost killed me, but the point is that I'm taking this angle, so it's really good. And another reason why is because look at this. This is the cover, right? Remember how I talked about the queen was using this as cover? Now I'm using it as cover. When I'm playing hitscan, I want to be playing with cover because this is 0 cover. The only thing this Bap can do if he gets to like 1 HP, there is no cover. He has to use lamp. For me, I don't have lamp. What do? I just tuck here. I tuck here, my supports have LOS of me, so it's kind of like a two-way system. I spam their choke from this angle, and I get healed. And whenever I take damage, then I just like heal again, and I'm actively stopping them from angling our team by just spamming here. So to break this choke for the enemies, they will never break this choke on Queen, ever, by the way. The only way they're ever going to break this choke against a Ram and a Soul just spamming is if they use ultimates, and that's inevitably what they do to sort of break the choke. Okay, so something really important to think about. Look at what's going on in the kill feed. Our Genjis trade each other. Our Genji uses Blade. So, what does this mean? 4v4, okay? What does 4v4 mean? Well, we're playing very far up. We're playing really aggro. We are in their spawn. We're not in their spawn, but we're on their side of the map. So, our Genji is on the opposite side. He is going to take, longer to sort of come back. He's going to respawn later, and he's going to come back later. Their Genji comes back first, so when they regroup, they're going to be up 1. We want to neutralize their advantage, so what we're going to do is we're going to commit ults here, because we want to defend, but we're going to be aggressive here because we know that we're even, and we don't want them to get the advantage because their Genji's gonna respawn quicker, right? So what we do is we commit our round. Now here, this is sort of like I think we over-ulted a little bit, but I decided to sort of commit OC, but we kind of just wiped their entire team. And that's really good, right? Because now that sort of, quote-unquote advantage is neutralized. So now our Genji comes back, and their entire team is going to be coming back, and our Genji should probably be here then. Okay, so we're going to talk about reading alt exchanges. So what does reading alt exchanges sort of mean? Now, what I mean by reading alt exchanges is that we're going to sort of see what happens. So this is the last fight for us, and we are going to try to win this fight. So our Genji, starting off the fight with a blade. So our Genji goes in, tries to blade. So what do we hear? We hear the enemy pop overclock. So the enemy is popping overclock to neutralize this blade. OC, what do we want to do? I don't have ult yet, right? What I want to do is let them OC, because we don't want to try to fight that. We don't have OC ourselves, right? We have 95 to OC. We're not fighting this. They have a lot of space to sort of claim. They need to take up a lot of space because they OC'd so far from where we actually are, right? So this means I can let their OC sort of run out. So what I do is, let's look at their POV. So we see their OC timer on the left, and we can sort of go in 0.75. It's going down, it's going down, it's going down. And you can see we're already playing height. We just slide. Their OC is gone because they use their OC, in exchange for our blade. They sort of neutralize our blade, but they use OC in exchange. So now he has nothing, and we use window, and we use my OC as well. I do mess up a little bit mechanically. I get boofed and stuff. It is annoying, but the main thing is that the Sojourn just dies right here. And what I do next is that because there's nothing really to contest me, they don't have beat, they don't have an OC of their own to shoot me, so I'm free to do whatever I want. So going back to my POV, all I do, I try to shoot this guy. I thought he deflected, I guess he didn't. I just miss. I go for their BAP next, kill that guy, then shoot their loot. So you can kind of see how that ult exchange went. We use blade first, they use OC. And when they're out of OC, we then commit window and OC, and then we pretty much win the game from that, right? So that's something to sort of think about when you're playing your games, is how you're going to play around this idea of exchanging ults, right? If they have beat and you have blade, how are you going to play around that? How are you going to bait out beat? Am I going to be using my blade to sort of, just get the 1-for-1? I use blade and they use beat. Think about those things. Alright, that's pretty much it for the Sojourn Top 500 guide. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I put a good amount of work into it. I try to make it as concise as possible. It was pretty hard to sort of condense all of that information. I feel like I could have mentioned a few more things, but just really let me know in the comments down below what other questions you sort of have, and I will do my best to answer them. I think I did a pretty good job of sort of explaining what you do in hitscan. I don't really think hitscan is the most difficult, role to play. It is pretty basic. All you're pretty much doing is pressuring tank, taking good angles, and sort of, going for backline and using your ult to just do big things. It does vary from hero to hero, but that's generally sort of what hitscan does. You just shoot stuff, right? And that's the oversimplified, version of it. But in this video, we sort of kind of broke it down a bit and we talked about it. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like and comment, whatever you want. And I'll see you guys next video. I think we're going to be doing support next, so stay tuned.